It'll work.
5,
Who knows?
4, 3, 2, 1. It's Nobody Asked with Maria.
Hi!
And me. I'm Colin is my name. Today,
Oh, hello.
we'll be talking about pigs. Oh, misread that. Cops. I meant cops. Whoopsies.
No!
It was an accident. I made a mistake. We'll be talking about that. First, through the lens of tickets, speeding, parking, any variety. There are many. Jaywalking. And then, in the variety of my mother has become a communist in researching this.
I mean, not a communist per se, but
What?
I'm really keyed in on how capitalism just is everywhere.
My mother loves Vladimir Putin. It's
Ew.
Nobody
No.
Asked. Boo,
Ew.
boo, boo, ah, boo. Boo, 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 boo. Nobody asked.
Perfect. We crushed it as per usual.
It's like a. Should I do like an NPR voice?
Do you have one?
Clearly, I don't. Okay.
Hi.
All right. You want to introduce the first topic?
Oh, me? I feel so unprepared for introducing topics.
I'm just kidding. Said me. Yeah, this is why we shouldn't have me introduce the first topic, because I don't know how to do the. Anyway, today's episode is sponsored by A Reasonable Doubt. I don't know. Maybe that knife landed in that person's torso because a mysterious void appeared, and the knife came out of it with a certain velocity that corresponded very much with what a stab wound would look like if I, someone that might be a murderer, stabbed them a bunch of times, right? But it could have also been the void thing. So we should consider that option for 4 days and hang this fucking jury.
That
It's a
seems
reasonable doubt.
Reasonable?
Yeah.
Reasonable?
A reasonable doubt.
Reasonable.
How about we talk to you, the jury, for more than a week, but never say what a reasonable doubt is, so that when you go into the jury room, a bunch of idiots and morons that can't parse two words next to each other go, well, if there's just a single possibility that something else happened, then we have to acquit them. We'll just not tell you. Why? Because the legal system is a joke. A reasonable doubt.
Indeed.
This is unrelated to anything that has happened in my life or in the life of my loved ones. Plural.
Yes, or anything you've witnessed or studied or been a part of or observed.
Of course not. Yes, because, because it's a sponsorship, right? So it's not usually related to anything. I mean, maybe you've used the product and you vouch for it, right? And you're like, I love A Reasonable Doubt, right? Because I've committed many crimes in my life and I love not having to pay for them, right?
Exactly.
You see, if it involves money, then it's the preponderance of the evidence, right? But if you've permanently traumatized another person, sorry, but if a portal opened up, could have been the portal, you know? Could have been the portal. And what kind of evidence do portals leave?
Just impressions in your mind. That's all. Who can see that? Not me.
I think that unanimous jury decision might have been a flaw because our peers are fucking morons. Like that SM twerp. Boom! All right.
Oh my gosh.
You know I was bringing it back to SM, okay? Patron saint. All right. His initials stand for suck my. Okay. So today's first topic is
Yes.
tickets. Recently, John Oliver did an episode on tickets, and I was like, shit. See, our main competitor and probably the most similar kind of producer in terms of size of audience does our topic the week before we're going to do it. Then I opened it up, and he was talking about
Unbelievable.
like Ticketmaster tickets, like tickets to concerts. And I was like, you fool! You thought we were going to talk about that? Nay, I'm talking about tickets or citations from police officers. Now, first, I think what might be useful in this sort of thing is to define define the terms that we're going to be talking about. Okay, so
Okay.
a police officer is a marauding judge that doesn't require a jury that barely passed high school. So that's what a police officer is when we're talking about this. Um, and a citation is a punishment that the police officer can determine, not necessarily arbitrarily, right? They do have to say that you did something, but do they have to prove it? Not usually. I mean, maybe. If you really push it, maybe.
It
But
depends. Only
most
if you make them.
judges have this like, well, you know, there's heterosexuals who are people that love the opposite sex, and there's homosexuals who love people of the same sex. Most judges are police-sexuals who love to suck cops' dicks so that they get their jobs and they can keep them,
Too much.
right? So, and so that this is the
This is
problem.
not
Right,
the direction I thought this was all going in.
I'm just getting on my pedestal. Okay,
Okay. All
so
right.
here's what tickets are. Tickets are citations. For minor infractions, there is a commonly assessed punishment for the infraction in relation to the size of the infraction. So, for example, a parking
Sure.
ticket in New York, if it's a parking ticket that has to do with street cleaning, the ticket is straight up $60. I don't know how I know that. Oh, it's because that cop happened to be correct and I was illegally parked and they gave me a ticket. And so I couldn't really beef with it because I was like, you know, you're right. But these citations generally have a common size, and then there are police officers who really don't do anything other than enforce a certain kind of citation, right? And let's be clear here, right? We don't want parking hell in our streets, right?
No.
There's a purpose to
No.
discouraging certain kinds of parking, right? We would like
Absolutely.
to clean our streets. We would like to be able to drive in our streets. We would like to be able to mow our lawns without somebody parking in them, right? We want
That's the
certain
least
parking
important.
laws. The least important, well, I mean, until somebody's parked in your front lawn and you're like,
Listen, I get what you're
that's my
saying,
front
but
lawn.
that doesn't matter. All that matters is the flow of commerce. The flow of commerce, get your car out of the street so that commerce can flow. That's all I'm saying.
I can tell
Keep
that
it moving.
Vladimir Putin jab from earlier is really making you try and prove your
I do.
capitalist
He's not
haunches.
it. He's got
Vladimir
weird
Putin,
nipples. Didn't we discuss this previously?
he's got weird nipples. He's got one of those chins that like didn't grow. Um, he frankly looks like you pulled him out of some sort of a beige vat. And he's got clownish
He's very
opinions.
beige.
But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about citations.
Oh, my bad.
No,
We've
it's all
digressed.
good.
My bad.
Me and you digress. That would not happen.
Never.
Now, this is the case for all citations, is that the founding principle of citations is good, which is that I don't want people going 1,000 miles an hour on the streets where my kids might be crossing at the zebra crossing, right? I don't necessarily want people parking anywhere willy-nilly on the sidewalk where I need to roll my wheelchair. I don't. What is the other thing you can get a citation for? Jaywalking's bullshit. Actually, fuck jaywalking. Stop enforcing it. If you are a cop that has enforced it, I am going to make your kids participate in the Hunger Games when I'm elected. But those other two, there's real reasons that you might not want them, right? There are hazards involved in the crimes. And monetary punishments do seem somewhat fitting, right? I mean, one of the things that the nation is founded upon is not cruel and unnecessary punishments. And someone misparking, I don't think that they should serve prison time. It was founded on it. It's in the main document. Have we done a good job? No. But for the most part, it was, if we wrote it in the document, it was founded on it. Okay.
Sure,
And we are
sure.
constantly trying to get better. What is cruel and unusual is subjective, etc. But I will say that a monetary punishment for these sort of things does seem logical.
Sure.
Here's where my beef is. We have allowed, through long-standing and slow-moving changes in policies, for two things to happen. One is that citations are completely unrelated to your own income, which means that you've now put a price on crimes. And some people are willing to pay a lot of money for very silly things. See, there's like $50,000 bottles of wine, right? For that, you could park illegally in New York for the next 5 years or more if they
Sure.
enforced it every single time, right? So you're putting a price on a crime, which is, one, not a good form of enforcement. And also, if a $60 ticket to somebody who is poor is potentially destructive to their entire life, right? Especially if they're living paycheck to paycheck, whereas a $60 ticket to someone like most of the people that graduated with me is like, no, I pay that for parking. Most of the parking around here costs 25 an hour. So,
Jeez.
like, I
So
mean,
you would risk the
you shouldn't
parking
have a
ticket.
car here. Exactly, right? Because if you know it's 60, you're like,
That's 3 hours.
they just have to not come soon, right? Anyway, my first issue is that it's a flat rate cost. And so if you're talking about cruel and unusual punishment, the cruelty of a punishment and its ability to match a crime should be based upon the effect it has on the person that you're punishing. And yet, we have created this sliding scale of punishment by applying a flat punishment, where I think that a $60 ticket on somebody that has $60 to their name is cruel and unusual, where because it's 100% of their assets, right? And those assets go to food. Whereas somebody that has $200,000 of assets, while a $60 ticket might be annoying, it will not affect whether or not their child eats, right? And so, counterintuitively, a flat punishment has created certain situations where there's cruel and unusual punishment. That is my first main point of tickets. The larger point is that through longstanding policy changes, we have allowed for police departments' fundings to be directly related to profits from citations. And that is bad incentives because you have given a group of people who stand to benefit from something the ability who stand to benefit from something that's intrinsically moral, right? The ability to lie or to produce problems and then create money out of it. And what a number of different municipalities have said. So there are several municipalities in Ohio, for example, which are incredibly small, but all of their police budget comes from citations. Is that if people stop speeding, if they stop going 7 miles an hour over the speed limit, then we'll just start punishing 1 mile an hour over the speed limit. And if they're not doing 1 mile over the speed limit, we'll start punishing just smaller and smaller crimes and upping the cost of the tickets because it's no longer about punishment, right? It's no longer about the moral, you're trying to prevent certain actions. It's about producing income. And when they say that, they're implying that they would be honest, but almost all tickets require no proof, require just that the cop says something that happens. It requires that cops are completely honest in a situation they stand to profit from. Now, in any other world, in any other place in business, you would say, oh, if you have a motive to lie, that's a reasonable reason to expect that someone would lie. In our legal system, that's true, right? There's certain kinds of testimony that are not admissible because of a conflict of interest. But we've created an entire mode of creating income for municipalities where there's a conflict of interest to lie. Am I saying this happens? Of course I'm saying it happens. How would it not? With thousands and thousands of cops on the streets, many of whom are idiots, the majority of whom, and they can just hand out tickets without proving anything, yeah, there's going to be lying and there's going to be discrimination. And they're going to go up to your car and they're going to say, oh, she's a cute girl. I don't want to make her day bad. Oh, he's an ugly dude. I do want to make his day bad. That's not justice. That's not, that is just giving someone a sword and saying, swing at who you think's bad. It's nonsense. It's nonsense policy. Do you have any thoughts, Mom?
I know you really went on a rant. And I was also playing with functions I just found, so I apologize. Well, I mean, Vinny points out, who decides what the criteria is? If it's not a flat rate punishment, who decides?
Well, I don't believe that it's who does decide? Who decides the amount for a citation? Specifically, the court determines the base fine by using the vehicle code section charged against you.
Yeah, I think they're arbitrary numbers.
Yeah,
that are legislated. They're just arbitrary. They're like, let's throw this sounds like a good penalty, and this sounds like a good penalty. So unless there's some pushback to legislators, I mean, I'm assuming it's legislators. It might not be. It just feels like we really legislate a lot of stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, what do you do? I know there's parts of New York where for certain crimes, if they declare you to be somewhat indigent, there's nothing. You can get out on bail. Maybe not for things like tickets like this, but you can get out on bail with nothing, right? On your own recognizance. And, a lot of people are in an uproar about that, well, where's the incentive for you to come back if you don't have to pay a bond, if there's no bail?
Oh, now we're talking about bail. We're in a whole different zip code with bail.
Well, you're right. But I mean, I feel like they're related, right?
It's super related because it's qualitative again. And you're resting upon a certain person's individual understanding of what an amount of money means to determine what's reasonable. And maybe some people would be good at that. It seems possible to me that there would be people that are very good at finding the exact number that would, discourage or encourage a certain action. But if you've looked at those, it's those classic gotcha questions for politicians where they're like, oh, how much is a gallon of milk, right? People are out of touch with each other, right? What something is worth to one group of people is wildly different than what it is worth to another group of people. And so to apply it unilaterally based upon what those politicians determine is a good way of discouraging people, I mean, the flat rate itself creates a problem. But then also to trust politicians to determine what is reasonable for a specified outcome is bonkers.
Yeah. It's a crappy system. You are right. It is problematic particularly when you were saying that, a police force, maybe their entire budget is based on tickets. Why is your finger up there?
I believe you have to do a punishment because you said problematic.
Is problematic the word?
I believe it was the word, yes, from last season.
Did you just make this up?
No.
What do I have to do? Am I making up my own punishment? I did a whole
section on how I hate the word problematic, and then we added it to the list. I will do a rendition of Cha Cha Slide, and you have to get up and do Cha Cha Slide.
Well, I'm in a seated position, so it will be a very seated one.
Okay, you're going to stay seated. So you just determine. Okay. I get it. You determine your own punishment.
Well, I'd have to move a lot of things around.
No
I'm a little bit limited, sir.
Okay. Left hand is up. Put your left hand up. Right hand is up. Don't put the left one down. And shake them all around.
Oh, good. I already was.
Now put them both down. Now close your eyes. Now put an L on your head. Now say, nice. This is problematic. Hey.
This is problematic. Hey. This is problematic.
Right. Hey. Perfect punishment. The first punishment in 10 episodes. Let's go.
Let's go. I've been punished.
The concept of the show is flawed.
Yes. Well, no, but back to the topic at hand. Yes, incentivizing the police to ticket to
Hmm.
support their budget is obviously not the move, because then you are looking for criminals when there are no criminals.
Yep.
But when you arrive at the fact that everything in a capitalist society can be capitalized on, including crimes real and imaginary, then, then it all makes perfect sense. Why, of course, they're going to find some new rule that you are committing, some new crime you're committing. You know, you've crossed the street inappropriately, very arbitrary. What does that have to do with anything? But okay,
Hmm.
uh, you've there's no public restrooms anywhere, but your bladder's going to explode. You're going to need to go. Well, sometimes you're just going to need to go. Do I need to be criminalized for that or penalized, financially for that? No, no, no,
Nope.
no. But
Also,
here we are.
yep, here we are. It's it's just crazy, and I think that the kind of thinking that it leads into is like, okay, so what is the foundational thinking of laws, right? And laws and punishments is that one of them is hopefully the punishments will become reliable enough and the enforcement will become reliable enough that the laws that you would like to enforce, you see happen less and less, and eventually never is the dream scenario. Okay, that I'm not saying this is what would happen, but you want to discourage certain crimes, so you create a discouragement and you try and get the created outcome. However, as soon as you make it so that the police are incentivized to find crimes where there are none, it's as if a legislature created a bunch of laws that were so effective that crime stopped. There was no more rape, there was no more assault, there was no more murder. And they called a special legislative session to go, we need more crimes because people aren't committing them anymore. So we need to make more things crimes so that we can raise money. And it's like,
Right,
no, if people are behaving perfectly morally, then they should be free. Come
right.
on.
I'm with you. But we can't very well have all of these police officers out on the streets with nothing to do. They've got no crimes. So we can't. What would we do? They're public servants. They've earned their right to be employed apparently, and so they can't go and look for another job just because all of the crime dissolved. Just like coal miners can't go and get new jobs, we need to preserve the coal industry, even though there's other better choices, better alternatives. No, we can't have that. We can't have that. We cannot let anything die that we don't want to die, and we don't want the police force to die by virtue of there being no crime, which of course one would think would be the best way for the police force to die. But we can't have
Yep.
that. So yeah, nope, gotta find new ones. Gotta find new crimes, new ways. As much as we like to think that, you know, less laws are better, all indications to the contrary.
Yeah, there's so many things, and then the last thing that I will talk about is this power that we've given to these barely high school graduates with guns. Is when you create a system by which you can punish someone and your word is enough to punish them. Like what is the first thing that Dad told me when I turned 16 and it was possible that I would have interactions with police officers by virtue of speeding and getting pulled over? Is like, you can get out of it. Just be respectful of the police officer. And while it's completely true that that is a good thing that gets you out of it, the fact that that's common knowledge speaks to a larger problem in the overall enforcement scheme, because everyone, even Dad, who I believe at the time was not particularly anti-cop to my knowledge, even Dad was going, these are essentially marauding, like, uh, givers of punishment, right? And if you
Yeah,
flatter them, then they'll decide you're not deserving of punishment. And what's less talked about, and among our race, but exists on the other side, is that if you aren't respectful of police, which are essentially a body that I have done very little to demand respect from me, let alone other communities that have had problems with police officers. If you aren't respectful of them immediately, then they can find a reason to punish you with relatively little recourse if they're incorrect, right? They can say you're disturbing the peace. They can say that you are what is it? You're what's the classic one that they get you for? You are
Non-compliance. You're not
not
complying.
non-compliance, or that there's one that's like interfering with an ongoing investigation. There's something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
on the opposite side of you can flatter your way out of a ticket because they like you, is that you can get yourself into a ticket that doesn't exist if they don't like you. And both of those are counter to the concept of laws, right? The laws shouldn't be
Yeah.
about whether or not someone likes you. The laws should be about whether or not something's a crime, and then what punishment is necessary to prevent that crime as often as possible and to prevent recommitting that crime. But instead, we've created a system where it's like you're told to respect police officers, and then simultaneously not respecting your police officers. One of the things that falls into that with these police officers that have an absolutely absurd idea of what respect is knowing your rights, right? Police officers will get mad when you don't grant them entry into your home, when it's a fucking constitutional right to do it, to not allow entry into your home
Yep.
without a warrant, right? But they'll get mad and they'll say you're not complying. They'll ask for identification when Republicans are the ones that have prevented identification laws, right? You're not required to have an ID walking outside. That would be, well, it's certainly counter to the idea of America that we have right now. And yet, if you fail to produce identification, it's construed as disrespect if you're of certain groups
Yeah.
by the police. We've
Particularly if you're
created,
brown. If you're Hispanic
yeah,
in the wrong part of the country and you don't produce an ID, well, then clearly you're here illegally, right? Because why else
clearly you're
wouldn't you
here
produce an
illegally.
ID? Not just you're out, it's a hot day, you're in your swim trunks, you're having a beer on
Yeah,
your front porch. Why are you bothering me, bro? Yeah.
absolutely, right? You're having a beer on your front porch. You're out walking your fucking dog, right? If you're brown,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're black, you're not providing identification. You're not complying with the police to them because you know that if you comply to police, they're going to find that you've committed a crime. And then they will make up a crime that allows them to search you. And then if you, heaven forbid, you have marijuana on you, which simultaneously they're all investing their fucking pensions in marijuana stocks. Heaven forbid you have marijuana on you. They've created a situation where they can falsely uh, fucking search you, and there's no recourse for you because you don't know the system, because no one teaches you how to protect yourself in the system. And even if you do know, it's construed as disrespect.
I
In
agree. But once you,
conclusion, sorry, go
there's
on.
no conclusion. It's going to roll into it's going to roll right into mine.
There will be a
It's
conclusion for mine, and then it'll be fine.
okay, fine, fine, fine.
But
But again, there's reasons for everything. There's reasons for everything that are beyond the obvious. You are a cog in the damn machine, and you
mm,
better start cogging correctly. Know
mm-hmm,
your place in the machine. Know what cog you are. We have commerce. We have money that needs to move. Your job in that flow of money is here or here or here. And you know what? We're running out of we don't have slavery anymore in the traditional sense. The only way we have
yep.
that now is by putting you in prison. And so we need a certain amount of people in there in the
Uh-oh,
prison
incentives.
to
Uh-oh.
keep the shit moving, right? We need it to keep moving. We need the commerce to keep moving. And we need somebody down here at this level doing it for $0. I'm
Yep.
just saying it's all part of the same system. This is all capitalism at play. And this is it's weird. Somebody has decided where you belong in the machine of commerce based on what you look like, what your gender is, what your race is, what your socioeconomic background is, what your education is. Where do you belong in the machine? Where do you
Mm-hmm.
belong? And so, if you aren't in the right part of that machine, best believe that we have somebody to help get you back where you're supposed to be. Start contributing, whether it be as an incarcerated person doing whatever job we've decided you're going to do, or whether it be, a job you've chosen for yourself. You better get to it. Stop enjoying yourself out here on the stoop. No.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I'll let you
You're an
continue.
essential worker, so start fucking working, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Drink.
Seems like we're about to transition into your topic. So just
We
before we
are.
do, this episode of Nobody Asked is sponsored by poetry. Have you ever
Poetry.
felt feelings really strongly and wanted to communicate them in a way where no one would understand you? Have you ever seen a rose on a cliffside, drifting back and forth with those tides of each breeze, right? The smells of pollen, dust, and decaying corpses fill your nose.
Okay.
And then,
Ooh,
with a slight and bright light, the might of our fight will climb up to that tallest peak and say to it, nothing, because it can't listen, it is inanimate. Poetry.
gorgeous, as always. Let me. Very nice. Very
Thank
nice.
you. My name is Edward Allen P.
All right. All right. So listen. I touched
No.
on it a little bit there. My feelings. You could already kind of feel them seeping through. But I'm going to tell you how I got to where I got to, and that was by doing a quick history of the police in the United States. Okay. So this might blow your mind, but there wasn't always a police force here. No, it wasn't always, because who the hell knows why. So when we first started it in the Americas, in the colonies, we had what was called a night watch. And he's just out there protecting. Actually, all he's really doing, he's a volunteer, or he's possibly been forced into it against his will because he's already misbehaved in some way. And they decided his punishment is to now watch everybody at night and make sure that they weren't doing too much gambling or prostitution. Right? That was the big concern, gambling and prostitution. So, the rich people, they were also supposed to do it. Everybody's supposed to be part of this in this night watch scenario. Everybody's supposed to take a turn making sure everything's safe in the town. But rich people were like, yo, man, I don't want to do this. I got better things to do with my time. And they would pay, often a criminal, to stand their watch for them. It's ridiculous. It was a ridiculous scenario, right?
Yep.
Now, your night watch reported to your constable. Your constable was an elected official, and your constable just seems like he did every damn thing. He was like basically your all-around city clerk who did it all. He was controlling the slaves and the natives. He was regulating the sale of goods. He was making sure your weights and measurements. He was the dude who said, oh, this is how much a pound is. He was surveying the land. He was also controlling liquor, gambling, weapons, and fire watches. So he was just doing it all. And so your night watch reported to him because this he sounds pretty busy. He sounds like a busy dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of weird shit going on. So let's see. Then if you move down, well, I'm going to just talk briefly about the Western frontier because they're the least interesting. The Western frontier, you had U.S. Marshals maybe, but oftentimes you had nothing. There was no organized law. Just like in the Wild West movies, the sheriff got shot. Here's the next person picks up the badge. Whoever decides that they're going to just make sure your town is safe, or there would be a vigilante group. People that were working together for the collective good of your town. As cities grew bigger in the East Coast, right? Suddenly there was a need for something bigger than this night watch constable scenario. And it wasn't just about urbanization, it was about industrialization. This is where it gets important. Industrialization. So, depending on who you ask, who is our real police force? You got two choices. So, if you're in the north, they're going to say Boston, 1838, okay? We're pretty far in 1838. And what would happen was there'd be these large shipping centers. You're down over there you're down by the docks. You got your merchants bringing goods in. They're bringing in their goods, right? And so they'd hire these people to protect the property, right? You don't want your stuff getting stolen in the middle of the night. You don't want people walking off with your goods.
No. You want to keep that shit.
So there was a point where you're like, this is getting expensive. I don't like having to pay for all these people to watch my goods. So they went and said, hey, mayor, maybe we could have the state, if you will, the city, the town, help us pay to watch these goods. And the mayor's like, isn't that your problem, bro? Wait, why's your hand up?
Can we act that out? Because I think it would be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Can we?
Who you want to be?
Just for some.
You want to be
Oh,
the
I
mayor?
definitely want to be the guy asking the mayor.
Oh, okay. I'll be the mayor.
Okay. All right. Knock, knock, knock.
Hello?
I can't
Mayor's
talk to you.
office?
The door's closed. Can't talk to you.
Oh, hey, come through the door. I've opened the door for you now. Come through the door.
I walk in. Hey, man. This whole situation, it's just not working for us. Okay? It costs a lot of money to protect our stuff. And we're just wondering, maybe you'll do something about it.
Why is that my problem? You know what I mean? Like, taxes.
Well,
Say taxes.
Well, you see, look, I ain't no professor from Harvard or nothing, okay? But here's the thing, is that for each one of the goods that I bring in, there's some taxes that are paid, okay? And who those taxes go to? You. And so when things are stolen, I don't know, maybe some taxes go missing. Who's to say? So I just think it's maybe in your best interest to help us out a little bit. What do you think? Hey.
Yeah,
Was that the whole thing?
Let's
go.
That was it.
Let's go.
That was it, bro. That makes complete sense. That's what it was. And you know what? I think we can make that happen. I think the people would want the goods. They don't like to not have the goods. So yeah, and the taxes. I need the taxes for some reason. I need
Yep.
those. So yeah, the taxes can pay for the coppers to watch the goods so that they get to market, because that's my job.
It's like
Capitalism,
a circle
commerce.
or something.
We need
It's like a
commerce.
circle.
We need commerce.
The economy is like a circle, and like this situation is like a smaller circle inside of the bigger circle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're talking to me about this, and I can help you too. I'm helping you already. But also, maybe you can think of me too. You can think of me, we can think of each other, we can influence policy. You can make sure that I stay here in office, because I'm helping you out by helping you out with these coppers, by giving you this police force.
Oh, so like me, the business, and you, the politician, are like friends or something. You and me are like friends. And all the other people that might be thieving individuals, they're like our enemies.
Well, they're not our enemies if they keep buying goods and
Oh,
paying
I
the taxes.
misunderstood. My bad. Hey, I'm going to see myself out. I'm going to get a nice water. So, hey.
So that's how the first police force started in Boston. That's
Awesome.
The whole premise. Protecting our goods. Now, if you want to get more technical, and this is terrible but related. If you go all the way back, I gotta flip my page over because I took notes upside down. If you go all the way to 1704, I told you 1838. Now we're going all the way back to 1704. We aren't even technically a nation yet. But you know what we did have? Yep, we had slaves. Slaves were keeping the commerce moving. They were picking the cotton. They were doing whatever was asked of them. And if they didn't, they had what was called slave patrols, which was a lot of people. It was the largest police force out there, and their job was to maintain the economic order of the South in the southern colonies. Sheriffs and posses, they were out there doing that, and they were maintaining segregation as well, because you need to know your role. You are, at this point, the cog in the machine. You are down here. We need you doing your job, cultivating the goods. You need to create and cultivate the goods. We'll take care of it. There are goods. You just do your job here. You're the proper cog in the machine,
And to be clear, you're saying this is bad, right?
I'm saying it's bad. I'm saying
But they're cops. How can it be bad?
Well, bad is relative, right? It's relative. It's like, what's good law and order? Who decides?
I don't understand
What's for
big
the
words like
public good?
relative. I don't get it.
What's the public good? The public good in this case, right, is that merchants need to merch. We need some goods. And you dudes down here who we have enslaved, We need you because people like their prices to be low and reasonable. And, the white folk want to be paid. We can't have
Hey,
that. So, we need you guys over here. We brought you here and gave you no choice. Know your role. Be a good cog. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And and this is why, if you understand that that's what the police are about, they are about moving goods. They are about commerce. They are not about you. The only way that they're about you is in terms of how you relate to the commerce, right? If you are
mm-hmm.
a white man, you're a young white man who is in college and you have put your hands on a woman inappropriately, well, you've got so much future potential. So, we're going to say bad boy, but also because you have so much future potential, you're going to be more value to us out here, doing your commerce out here,
Mm.
than you would be in the prison system. We give you just a taste of it so that you remember you want to be out here doing your commerce. And of course, a woman, right? We have set up a system where she's not going to make as much. Her job is to produce more workers. Produce more workers. You want an abortion? No. Produce more workers. You want to compete with men? No. Your job is to produce more workers. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, you're over here scared that a man's going to touch you inappropriately. Well, get back in the house. Go marry a man that'll protect you. Get in the house and start cranking out babies. You're safe in there, cranking out babies, making new workers. Make new workers. That's what I'm
Well, is
saying.
it possible now that I think that most Americans would agree it is not in our best economic, what is it called? Economic benefit potential. It's not in our best interest to like increase the population of the country. And I mean, by all accounts, that's not happening. I do wonder if that, I mean, one, you would need people to understand the founding concepts that you've laid out here, but could that change how we look at punishment?
What do you mean? I don't know if I followed that. Say it
Well, I
slower.
mean, if you're saying it's, hey, if you're saying it's women's job to make more workers, but now there's been a dynamic change of what kind of benefits the economy, and more people are actually a bit of a drag in terms of all kinds of different variables in the economy, then is it possible that when we're punishing people, we look at women slightly different because making more workers actually detrimental to the overall economy? Human capital just isn't as valuable anymore?
No, I think it's just as valuable. I think it could be less
Ah,
valuable. Here's my thoughts. Here's my thoughts. Because people people because we have sold this idea that you must work, your value is work, right?
it,
And because of that, we don't believe that it's the government's job to assist us in that, right? You make what you have. If you don't, fuck you. Okay. um, because of that system that we've set in place, I believe automation will never really happen. Because then, if automation happened, that's a whole sector of people that you have now removed from the pool of people that can work, and we don't want that. And we need them all to consume. We need people consuming to line the rich people's pockets, right? To
mhm.
to to keep all of everything moving along. We need consuming, consuming, consuming. So you always need consumers. Every person consumes something, and you always need workers at the bottom you don't because we won't there's this real shift. Nobody wants that, not nobody, but people that make decisions don't want that basic income level, that basic surviving living income level. You can't have that. You need to work for it. And I don't see any not anybody, I don't see any corporation wanting to do that themselves. They say, oh well, I don't want to pay taxes to support people that aren't helping me in some way, so I will continue to use humans at the lowest level possible and pay them as little as possible. And what we'll do is we'll throw inflation up through the roof, even though we don't need to, because we're making tons of money as the CEO. I don't need more money. I'm making record money, but I'm going to keep saying I'm not. Oh, inflation. And we're just going to raise the inflation levels higher that force people back into the workforce. Force them into it because they can't survive without it. No? You see it? I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm just saying, commerce.
We definitely have differing opinions on automation. I do think that the smartest and most maniacal people at the top see a risk on both sides with automation. If automation goes the worst possible way, and we see it take money away from the poorest people and give it to the richest in such a great proportion that there is a show that the lifestyles of those at the lowest level are more similar to what they were in the Great Depression, while those in the rich class are living in the way that they are currently, or twice as well. I think that they're worried about that in terms of a political upheaval. And I think that the most maniacal people are still pro-automation in terms of the economy demands it, but they're going to try and create a system that keeps the people in line as best as they can. So they'll let certain social programs through because they prevent the dramatic political upheaval while still allowing for that separation.
Agreed. Agreed. It's all a balancing game, right? We'll give you a little and make you think that we care. We'll
Yeah.
give you just enough, but really it's not enough. And it's fascinating and it's terrible. It's yucky, but
Mm-hmm.
this is where we live, and you can look around and you can say, well, we do have a lot of innovation in our world, in America in particular. There is
Yep.
there is a lot of people that are always forward looking to the future, but you've got enough people looking backwards all the time that it's to me becoming a little too out of whack. It's not a good balance right now. It scares me. It scares me. How many people are moving? Listen, I'm living in an RV right now. I don't need to live in an RV, but I can't help but recognize all the people out there that do right now. People that are living in their vehicles, that are getting priced out of the housing market and have moved into their cars, even though they are working people. I've sidetracked. It's just the capitalist way that we are working right now has gotten too big for its britches.
Yep.
And I'm not saying let's be communists. I'm not. I think that a perfect
You have to be
system,
saying one thing or the other, Mom.
why can't I say both can work together? Why can't we have a marriage of the best of both things? Why?
No,
But
that's
I just want to
socialism.
say that the police force, it's their job to keep commerce moving. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
is. And if you understand how the police view you in that role, then you understand why you're being treated the way that you're being treated. Who are
Yep.
you to commerce? And why are you not properly being your cog? Get back in your cog hole, start spinning around, making money for the big capitalist machine. Go buy stuff like you're supposed to. Go buy it from the right place that we've dictated is correct for what type of cog you are. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
messy. It's just yucky. When you look at it like that, you can understand why. Well, I'm not saying understand like you can forgive. I'm saying understand like there's an awareness of why a rapist would get off, or why, a thief might be, depending on the type of thief he is. Sometimes he's let go, and sometimes he's punished at a level that makes no sense, or it doesn't feel like it makes sense.
Yep.
So it's
Well,
weird
next time
and
we can
interesting.
talk about punishments, which are determined entirely by more humans, judges. So, uh, so that's good. It was such a this case. There was such a good chance because the judge was a woman and she was a hard ass. And I was just like, if this guy gets found guilty, he probably won't get a terrible sentence, but he'd get something. He would get something. But I was
Yep.
wrong. This episode was sponsored by Amazon.
Ooh.
Do you want to buy a toothbrush? We have many pay for the toothbrush, and a man who has shat himself will put it in a box, and then that box will come to you in 2 days. Buy the toothbrush. Buy it.
Consume!
Buy it. Buy the toothbrush. Buy 2. Buy 3 on a subscription model for 5 cents off. Buy Amazon.
That should be the mantra. That's what it should say on our flag. We should start putting words on our flag, and it should just be
Buy the
bye.
toothbrush. It's a monologue I'm working on.
It's nice. I like it. I didn't know how far it was going to go, and then I let it go the whole way, and I was like, yes, all the way. Good stuff.
Yep. I just yelled so loud that my ears are ringing a little bit.
Oh wow, that's impressive.
Yep. And I scared the dog just a little tiny bit. He was like, I've never heard you. Whenever you're on these calls, you always sound like, oh, hey, oh, yeah, I'm a businessman. And then now you're screaming. So why are you doing that?
Just lucky.
Just on a podcast, bud. It's a different kind of meeting.
Yep. I think we crushed it.
I think we crushed it too, honestly. I think we
Back
should.
to our back to our regular schedule program.
One of my favorite things about the podcast is the period at the end of the podcast where we evaluate the podcast. And this one, I'm giving it an A-, baby. It's an A-.
It's pretty good. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
I will say, perhaps we could call what's it called?
Audible?
A grand jury on.
Oh.
Most of the podcasts that I listen to are not live, and I think that there's potential. Now, obviously, it's more work to edit something that's not live, but if you just have a few times, and we can indicate it with like a clicker or something, that where we could jump in and be like, ooh, I want to talk about this. Can we talk about this and then come back to your thing? Or, ooh, I want to do a scene. I mean, I love the idea of us doing scenes, playing out the things that we're talking about to kind of intersperse them.
It was great.
I
mean, it didn't hurt that I came in with my accent right off the bat, so it was like, all right, we're clearly doing this. We're doing this. We're doing this.
No, it was good. Hey, yeah. So, we can act out scenes. We can do little things. I was storyboarding a TikTok at 3 a.m. 2 nights ago because I was filled with rage, and I was writing it, and I was like, okay, I could just rant about this subject, but what if I just put in scenes of like that, like when you hear a piece of news, the audience has a reaction to the piece of news, and then there's a scene that encapsulates the reaction, and so I've been thinking about that, and so I liked the idea. I like that the scene that we did is similar to that, and I think that we could use that tool more. I think it'd be kind of fun.
Yes, as the situation dictates. I think that this was just a perfect one to do it to, and I don't know. I don't like to force it, but if we can find a way, then I will I help you out there. I help you out. You know what I'm saying? You help me and I help you. That's what we do. That's what we do here.
Yeah, I don't want to force it either. I do think that it potentially ruins the flow of the podcast when you like. If I go, oh, let's do a scene, right? Then that's kind of weird, which is where I think
I didn't mind it.
Might come in. All right.
I liked it. Well, it was fine.
Something to think about. This podcast went well. Right. It had passion. It had fury. It
felt back to our old style. I had to. It took us 2 episodes to shake that off, and it was mostly me. But we'll get. You know what I mean? We get there.
I didn't dislike our last episode.
Oh, we were.
I felt like the latter half of our last episode was actually fun. And you could tell it was fun because we went like 40 minutes past when we're supposed to end. So
that is a good sign. It's a good sign.
Yep.
All right. Well, I love you.
I love you too.
Isn't it
Thanks
fun we
for
can end like
watching,
that because
everybody.
I'm your mom? I'm your mom, so I can say things like, I love you. Oh, it's not weird for you? It looks
I'm
like you're
breaking
making it
up.
weird.
I'm breaking up. I can't hear you. Oh, it's getting so scratchy. I see a light.
Ah.
I see
Oh
a
my gosh.
next week. Join us to talk about the space-time laser that we both discovered.
Yes. Yeah.
Is
And
it
then,
possible
like
that
if you
my mom
guys,
and I discovered completely different things and are similar to like when you get a tarot card reading and you're like, this is about me, but everyone would think it's about them? My mom said space-time laser, and I went, I've experienced that, I think. Yes. But
yeah, I'm a little concerned about the space-time laser and how it's going to impact my future.
well,
We'll see.
yep,
Space-time lasers
space-time.
next week. Unless we decide to something else because you can't trust
Almost
what we
certainly.
say this week.
No, absolutely not. Okay. Love you, Mom.
Okay. Love you too. Don't eat your hair. That's very disturbing.
Yeah.
All right. Love y'all. Bye.